and welcome to the FIFA 12 podcast. I am indeed Stevie Morgan, and it may be dawn in London where I'm recording, but it's well past evensong in Vancouver, which is in Canada, and joining me in his gym jams, he's ready for bed and he's clutching bedtime bear, or indeed, it looks bear-shaped from what I can see. It is Romilly Broad. Romilly, how the devil are you, sir?
I'm not going to turn my webcam on next time.
Well, I know the authorities have warned you about that, but listen, Rom, it's been a good couple of weeks actually, because through all the stresses and strains of launch, and of course a hectic social life as well, which you lead. This is the first time in a week or so that we've been able to reunite and come together for the force of the podcast.
Yeah, look, we've been launching games and stuff like that. So, that makes you quite busy, as a rule.
Well, there's plenty to discuss in this week's podcast, and it is, if I may say, a packed, pulsating and Polaris-propelled podcast, because this week we will be joined by top FIFA exponent stroke player Robert Brewster, Big Bobby Brewster. He is one of the best players in the UK, and he's going to help us get to grips with FIFA 12 because there is plenty to discuss with the new game. Rom will share with us some details about the FIFA 12 patch, which has been out for a week or so now. And in the big shout, Man City have the bragging rights, but we want to know the worst stick that you've had to endure from your mates after a game, be it real or virtual. But first, Romilly Broad, we start with the FIFA 12 news. What can you share with us about the patch?
So, I suppose, most people will know about this, I'm guessing, who listen to this podcast, but just in case you're not, about a week ago you would have downloaded a patch, whether you wanted to or not if you're on console, because the console would have just made you do it. Now, if you, for some reason, have been living under a rock, one of the things that you will notice in that patch is, and this is quite good for us, I think, anyway, is that we have removed the ability to control the goalkeeper in online games. You can still use the goalkeeper in offline game modes, but online, any game modes online, you can now not use the goalkeeper. And the reason that I think is good for us is because we threw that feature in there because we thought it was fun. We thought people would get a kick out of it. What we didn't anticipate, really, was what the community came back and told us immediately, which was that, people are going to abuse this. The AI is good. It defends better than a lot of people in some cases. And people will just, whenever they haven't got the ball, they'll just take the goalkeeper and let the AI do all its defending for it. And that's what happened. We got a lot of feedback. We asked for feedback, and in response to that feedback, as well as a bunch of the telemetry and the data that we look at coming from the game, the development guys decided, okay, look, we're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this thing. We think that enough people are abusing this to make the game not as good as it should be for the majority. So it's been taken out, and I think it's quite nice that we've been able to be a bit reactive in that way, if you see what I mean. And I think it's a sign of things to come, actually, in terms of the way FIFA's going to be working over the coming months and years, and hopefully we can do more reacting. Now, there's a bunch of other stuff that was in that patch that you may not have noticed immediately, unless you were suffering them. And I won't go through them all, but they are a multitude of fixes for different game hangs, freezes, crashes, and things like that that were happening, particularly around FIFA Ultimate Team. And there was another one where if you were trying to download an old game face as well from the website to your game, it was going to go and crash your game because the game wanted you to have a new game face, not an old one. So there's a bunch of other stuff. It's all on the forums if you want to go and find out what all the detail is. But it's all there, it's all done, and there will be more in the future.
Rom, what sort of response have you had about the patch? What are people saying? Are they happy?
People are generally usually happy about a patch. That's, just one of those rules. Unless, of course, the patch introduces more problems, which is, does happen sometimes because these are complex things, and you fix something by introducing a thing, and then there are consequences that you haven't quite figured out, and then you have another problem. You've got to make another patch. But this one did not introduce any new problems, as far as we're aware. It's gone down very well, especially the goalkeeper thing. And I've been playing it online a lot, as I'm sure you have, Stevie. And it's better. It's way better for the change that's been made with the goalkeeper thing. People were abusing it, especially when it got up into that kind of, we've got these new divisions now in head-to-head seasons, and you got up to the kind of midway point in those seasons, and people were just abusing it, especially once you got up to that point. So it's made a big difference, and I think people do appreciate it. And now, we've got other things we're looking at, but we'll talk to you about that another time.
But as ever, Rom, it's another example of the developers and the community working in tandem. Yeah,
exactly. And, that's the road that we're going down. I think that's the road most modern games development studios are going down now, I think you'll find. That's the future, and we're beginning to embrace it more and more, I think. Especially as there are more things involved in the game that are live, if you see what I mean. Ultimate Team is a very good example of something that's live. It's got this server-based economy in it. It's being changed, and promotions get dropped in it, and teams of the week, and all this other good stuff. It's supported constantly live, and we have to get feedback on that as it's happening, and the same is becoming true of other game modes within FIFA. In principle, you can look at EA Sports Football Club now, and the challenges that are dropping in 3 times a week now. All of that feedback that we get on that is very important for deciding how that stuff develops for the rest of the year. So and this is it's a really good example of how the community can voice its opinion, and as long as they are more or less united in that opinion, we can do something about it.
And they can voice that opinion, Rom, through Twitter or Facebook. Yes. Do you want to remind us of those particular addresses?
I could do that if that's what you.
It would be rather seamless, wouldn't it? It would work almost like, dare I mention the dreaded P word, but it'd almost be quite professional, wouldn't it, Rom?
Yeah, I suppose it would. The only thing that doesn't seem very professional is that you can't remember these addresses by now. I mean, we've been trolling them out for about 3 years.
Rom, I can remember the addresses. I'm testing you to see if you can remember the addresses. Huh?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do.
Yeah.
At
EA Sports FIFA. Yeah.
And the Facebook page?
EA Sports FIFA.
And if people want to write to you directly, Rom, what's your address?
It's Stevie.Morgan.
Oh, you see, it may be late. And to be honest, I think Romilly Broad he's had a busy day. He's had a fun day, but he's ready for bed. But still, he can launch a broadside like that. I see, Rom, you're having a cup of tea there through the power of
it is quite late.
And it's a Lord of the Rings mug.
Oh, it is actually. It's very nice. Yeah,
it's like a tankard.
Tankard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To drink your tea from. Quite novel. Anyway, Rom, we still have a few matters to discuss in the FIFA 12 news whilst we're on a mug update, and I think that should become a regular part of the FIFA 12 podcast. Each week we bring you. Each week, Rom, you should drink a cup of tea with a different mug. Right, so we've got the Lord of the Rings mug. Next week, I know you've got I think you've got a Doctor Who mug, which you're quite fond of.
No, I haven't got a Doctor Who mug, but if you send me one, I will have. That I would quite like. I do enjoy a bit of Doctor Who, actually.
Rom, that is, if I may say, a shameless act of promotion there, of trying to get people to send you merchandise. However, whilst Rom's doing that, I like gold bullion. So if you'd like to send any to me, that's fine. But Rom, we've covered some of the details there with the patch. And as you say, people should keep an eye on the Facebook page and across us on Twitter. And, of course, the website, easportsfootball.com for regular updates. Thanks, Rom. For regular updates, because as ever, we do want to keep in contact and in touch with everybody. But also, Rom, we've got to discuss Support Your Club, because you have an update there as well.
Well, I thought we could do this on a weekly basis, even, because Support Your Club.
It could follow on from Romilly Broad's mug update.
Mug update. this podcast is essentially a mug update by definition, isn't it? Do you not think?
Is that a bit of a slight at me, Rom?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Stevie Morgan, and here's your update. That's pretty much what
you're hinting. You're hinting that I'm a mug.
I'm not. Yeah, it's a bit less subtle than a hint.
Yeah. Well,
but yes, that's what I'm saying.
True. Rom, support your club. What is going on? What can you tell us there? How have the chips fallen after the first couple of weeks of FIFA 12?
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with what support your club is, I don't know how you could have missed it, but essentially this is a component of EA Sports Football Club, which is an umbrella term that catches that you level up, you get XP, and everything you do contributes towards that XP, and it contributes equally to the club that you support. It doesn't matter what you're doing in the game or which team you're playing as. The team you support benefits from the XP that you're gaining. And now what we do is we track how much XP on average people are earning for their clubs. So it's quite simple. And interesting things are happening, I suppose. I wouldn't go as far as to say surprising, but interesting. So one of the first things to note over the first few weeks is that Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, so these big Premier League teams have all plummeted through the English league system.
What?
Liverpool, I know. Liverpool are clinging on into in League One, I believe, which is a good achievement. Man United, Arsenal, and Chelsea are all propping up the bottom of League Two.
This is unbelievable.
I know
This is football turned upside down, Romilly Broad.
I would say it's unbelievable, but it's not really that unbelievable if you think about what's going on. So all we're doing is looking at the... so Man United, for example, have got something like nearly 400,000 people registered as fans in FIFA 12. They are all playing to a greater or lesser degree. Now, a lot of those guys are going to be a bit more casual because they're Manchester United fans and they might not be from England, but they pick a team that they like. They may not play the game so much because they've got a lot of people following them. There are going to be less of those people, relatively, playing a lot. So the result of that is that Man United go down. Is that fair or not? I don't know. What do you reckon? The thing is, it's a reflection of the truth. This is what's happening. What do you think? You
pay a price for popularity, Rom. That's and I should know. Thankfully, you'll never have to endure that.
No, I enjoy it quite a lot actually because I have to look at you and I can see the effect of it and it's not pleasant.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, Manchester United is suffering that. Liverpool are suffering that as well.
So how are Southampton doing, just out of interest? Because obviously, in the real world, we're top of the Championship. But how are they doing in Support Your Club?
I believe they are quite highly placed in the Premier League, actually. That's off the top of my head. Might be wrong.
A shape of things to come, I think.
Well, I know. And in fact, actually, I'll give you the top 5 in the Premier League, according to Support Your Club. Walsall have won it.
What?
For the second time.
There are people listening to this podcast, Rom, and don't forget, this is a global affair. There are people listening to this podcast who have never heard of Walsall. I'm thinking of, remember, we've got listeners all over the globe, even Reg in Sierra Leone. Hello, Reg. We should give him a big hello, actually, because he's out there, a man alone in Sierra Leone. That rhymes, and it could be the documentary that we make about his life listening to the FIFA 12 podcast. But he's a man alone out there in Sierra Leone. I've said it again. I know, I can't stop myself. Listening to this, and he's thinking, I have never heard of Walsall. Romilly Broad, what on earth are you on about?
A lot of people in England probably haven't heard of Walsall either. Anyway, they're in the
lucky
English...
them.
Yeah, I haven't been there myself. I'm sure it's delightful. I just don't know. Anyway, Walsall are the champions of England, closely followed by Milton Keynes, the MK Dons. I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Folks, if you're around the world, if you're asking yourself, what is a Milton Keynes? Don't ask.
It's second place in the English football system. That's what it
Yes.
is. Following them are Rochdale, Colchester, and Peterborough.
My
Now,
word.
what you might be thinking here is that, oh, hang on, there's a direct correlation here between the number of fans that we've got registered against those clubs in FIFA 12 and their position in the table. Walsall must have a tiny number of fans. It's true, they've got 400 and something people in there, but on average, all 400 of those people are earning lots of XP every day. But it doesn't necessarily follow, because Manchester City are still in the Premier League. They haven't been relegated down to League 2,
Yeah.
like the other teams around them. They are clinging on just about in the Premier League, and they've got quite a lot of fans. So, it's a bit funny what's going on. Manchester City fans, arguably, because there are a much larger number of them than there are, say, Walsall or MK Dons fans, are on average quite good at FIFA. You've got to doff your cap to Man City FIFA 12 players, because they're proving to be quite good and en masse.
Well, on the subject of people being quite good at FIFA, we posted on our Facebook page a couple of weeks ago. We posed the question, how do you play FIFA 12? What kind of tactics do you adopt when you approach the game? And we gave people 3 options. Are you all-out attack? Attack. Are you tic-tac-toe, golazio? Or do you park the bus?
That's not what it says.
Yes, it does. Or do you park the bus and hope for the best? Romilly Broad. Now, which of those, before I give the results, which of those are you, Romilly Broad?
I am tic-tac-toe. A bit cautious, a bit steady, a bit build it up slowly type sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about. Now, remember, Rom, when you and I had our one and only game of FIFA 12, because obviously the Atlantic Ocean means that we're unable to come together that often and play. When we were in Cologne, I parked the bus. I was, I had no shame about that. I parked the bus and I beat you. And it's a tactic that works for me. But I've got to say, only 5% of the 50,000 odd people that posted their vote on the Facebook page said that that's what they do. 31% say that they're tic-tac-toe, a bit of the Romilly Broad, but 64% go all-out attack.
Yeah. I'm surprised by that, actually. I thought that would be the other way around. I thought the majority of people would be tic-tac-toe, because that's a bit, FIFA 12 encourages that sort of build-up play. You get much more time on the ball. You can shield the ball much more effectively, wait for those players to make the runs and all that. I would have thought it would be the second option there, same as me. Well, I'm wrong. Shows how much I know.
We did miss one option out there, which is basically the Sam Allardyce, which is just hoof.
Hoof it.
Yeah. So, maybe another time we'll include that for followers of the Allardyce ethos of football. And talking about a footballing ethos, I'm very pleased to say that I was joined earlier by a man who embodies some of the finest attributes of FIFA 12. It is Robert Brewster, a.k.a. Big Bobby Brewster. And he's coming up next on the FIFA 12 podcast.
Hi, I'm Alan Smith, and you're listening to the FIFA podcast.
Regular listeners to the FIFA 12 podcast will know, of course, that we speak to the great and good of not only real-world football, but also in FIFA as well. And I'm pleased to say that we're joined by one of the best players in the UK, Robert Brewster, a.k.a. Big Bobby Brewster, all the way from Huddersfield. Big Bobby, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Listen, last time we spoke, you'd qualified for the FIFA Interactive World Cup. It was out there in the crazy streets of LA. What happened?
It was a very good trip out there. The tournament for myself, I went out in the group stages, so that wasn't ideal, but it was a very good trip. Went to a mansion, played some games there. Played some games on the top of the A&T Tower. Went up there for a camera shoot, so it was a pretty spectacular trip.
It must have been like being in Huddersfield, and just for the benefit of our listeners on foreign shores who may not be familiar with Huddersfield, it's basically the UK version of Hawaii. Is that how you would describe it, Big Bobby?
Quite similar, yeah, it's quite similar.
Absolutely right.
From the coastline.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit about FIFA 12 because I want to find out how someone such as yourself is getting to grips with it. How are you finding FIFA 12?
I'm finding it a bit more of a challenge than the previous games, purely due to the defending side of it. I think there's a few things people have got to play a bit different there, but it's definitely the impact engine as well is making the game generally more fun to play, and it's looking a lot more realistic than previous years.
Well, I want to talk to you about the defending in just a moment, but first, what are the teams that the best players or the top players are using? Has there been any change with FIFA 12?
Generally, looking now that Man United are getting used due to the strength in their defence. Same reason for Man City, and same old with Real Madrid are still being used. Those are the general three teams I've seen mainly used now. There's odd use of Barcelona, but not much. So
you've seen a bit of Man City being used as well?
Yeah. They're quite good up front with Aguero. I think Aguero's actually faster than Ronaldo on acceleration, I was told earlier, actually, so that could be the reason why they're being used. I haven't used them much as of yet. I've been mainly using Real Madrid, trying to get used to them.
No Chelsea?
No, I haven't even played with Chelsea once yet. It's probably worth a try. They probably are still good, but I haven't seen them used much so far.
And what about formations, Robert? Have you seen any changes there or variety of different formations that people are using with FIFA 12?
I quite like the 4-2-3-1 the second version of it. That's quite good. I'm quite a fan of that. But generally, it's the 4-1-2-1-2. It's still being used by the competitive players, which is what's been used for years by everyone. But I've gone away from that, and I'm trying a couple of the new formations, which I think are they're quite interesting. It's put a lot more choice in the game for the player, so you get a wider choice at the FIWC UK and World Finals this year.
So as you say there, someone such as yourself who competes at the highest level is still kind of getting to grips with the game, experimenting with the game, and as you mentioned earlier, Bobby, a number of people have found defending this year more challenging because people are required to do a bit more than in previous years. Talk to me about the defending. How are you finding it?
I'm finding it more of a struggle. My general issue is I'm pulling my centre backs out of position, and that's the tip I would give is make sure your back 4 or 5 or 3, whatever it is, are always staying back and pull off players and try and get your midfielders to sit in front of the defence. That's the issue I had on the first few times I played it, and that cost me quite a lot of goals. So that is the biggest bit of advice I can give you, is keep the back line where it should be.
So aside from making sure that everybody's staying in position, are there any other couple of tips that you might be able to give? That's what people will always want to know when they hear someone such as yourself, Bobby, talking to the world. I wonder if there's anything else you can share with us.
Use the 2 triggers on either your Xbox or PlayStation 3. So the player actually, rather than running, you can hold them back and you can move them around, so you can fit players in different areas then and fit them into gaps to stop the through balls. And that is generally my main tip. That's what I'm doing all the time at the minute, and it's working quite well for me.
Okay, personally, for you, what are your plans this year? Because I'd imagine we're still going to see you on the circuit and competing at the very highest level. What's on your kind of gaming calendar this year?
The end of this month, I'm going to the Emirates for the European Gaming League. There's a tournament there over the weekend of the Saturday the 29th and 30th, run by egl.eu, so you can check that out on there. So that's the next event. Obviously then there's the FIFA Interactive World Cup, which I'll hopefully qualify for the UK finals and go to that, and we'll see what goes from there.
Okay, well, as ever, a complete joy talking to you, Big Bobby. And make sure you give our love to Huddersfield.
Will do. Thank you.
Take care, mate.
Cheers, bye.
That's Big Bobby Brewster there, a UK gaming legend. But right now, it's the Big Shout.
It's the chance for you to have your say in this week's Big Shout.
Big Bobby Brewster there, always a joy to speak to him, and hopefully we'll speak to him again sometime soon. But this is the Big Shout, and we are discussing, in the wake of Man City's demolition of Man United and the topic of bragging rights, we're asking what's the worst stick you've had from your mates after a game. It may even be a real game or indeed on FIFA. Now, Romilly Broad, yes. I'd imagine when it comes to FIFA, the worst stick you've had to endure was from me when I beat you.
That's right. Yes, that's very right. And obviously I've had a lot of stick from other people after they beat me. But the worst thing about your stick is that you bring it up literally every time we speak. Literally,
really?
You beat me once.
No. It just feels like that, Rom. You're just developing a bit of a complex about it. That's all. Just feels like that. Not at all. I'll tell you what, though. The worst stick that I've had, and I have to doff my cap to Simon Humber, who we've spoken to before on the FIFA podcast. He's a creative director of FIFA. He's a Portsmouth fan. Now, there are, as we know, counselling classes that he can go in, groups that he can go to for that particular affliction, and our prayers are with him. But he's a Portsmouth fan. I'm a Southampton fan. Our two clubs met in an FA Cup clash around about a year or so ago, and Southampton lost. So I thought, okay, there might be a bit of shtick. I didn't expect him to post over his son, Lucas, who is only a wee thing.
Basically, I think he was about 3.
About 3 years old, repeating the mantra over and over again, bye-bye Scummers, bye-bye Scummers, which of course is the nickname that Portsmouth people, could you call them people? Yeah, probably. Regard us as. It's not the most imaginative nickname, and we've come up with a whole range for them. I haven't got time to go through them now. It's just because us in Southampton are far more creative and inventive when it comes to insults. So that was a pretty nifty bit of stick that I took there, and it put me away. And as you might say, Rom, it put me on the mantelpiece.
It did. In many ways, you're still on the mantelpiece. With your little legs dangling off the end, warming nicely over the fire of Simon Humber's insult. It was quite enjoyable.
Whoa! Yeah, and to think that none of this is rehearsed, Ron, that was quite impressive. To think,
thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I still am, in many ways, seated upon the mantelpiece with my feet dangling, next to the carriage.
But your feet dangle off the end of a chair.
That's true, Rom. On the mantelpiece, if you let me continue, as I continue this theme, next, propping up the carriage clock of shame, as the the post, the final demands in the post are stacked up behind my back. I think that's as far as we can take this particular image.
It's quite strained. Yes.
Yeah.
That's quite tricky.
Anyway, Rom, aside from the stick you've had from me, anywhere else? Anything else you've had to endure?
No, it's been otherwise flawless for my whole life. Although, actually, you know that I'm a twin, right?
A twin? Yes. Oh,
yes.
I thought you said something else there. Yes.
So that caused me quite a lot of grief when I was growing up, and I had no one ever used my actual name.
Well, I'm sure it was obvious that they always use your sisters.
What? No, I had two names when I was growing up. One of them was Danny.
Yeah.
Can you work out that connection?
It was your twin's name.
No, my twin's name is Adam. But of course.
Okay, all right. We're getting an insight into the world of Broad here, which I hadn't quite expected. Okay, you were known. You had two names. The first one was Danny. The second one was Romilly, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Anyway, and the other one I can't. Well, the other one I can't really tell you about because it's obviously there are kids listening and your family, and I don't want to offend them. So you'll have to read about that later.
What? Where can we read about that? In your autobiography?
Yeah, well, it won't be my autobiography because I'm not going to write it.
Well, I've written it
else.
actually, Rom. I'm glad you say. I've actually brought the manuscript with me, and it's called "We Need to Talk About Danny." / Romilly, and I've got high hopes for this book, to be honest. But I am slightly, I have to say, concerned that you were treated so badly by the kids in your Borstal. No, just a joke there, Rom. I know you're a perfectly behaved young man, as indeed was your brother Adam, who I gather it was his birthday last week. So happy birthday, Adam.
Yeah, it was also my birthday.
Oh, really? What a coincidence.
I'll tell you another story about that in a minute.
And you had a birthday at the same time? That's just weird.
Yeah. Baby Lee indeed sent me an email on that day asking me to tell my brother happy birthday. Which was very nice of him.
Yes.
Anyway, look, my brother these days is a teacher. So what he gets is called lots of really bad things. And what I get called, because I work on FIFA, is the winner. At least that's what happens in my head.
Okay. Well, you keep telling yourself that sort of stuff, Rom, and I'm sure you will put those nasty memories to one side. Anyway, Danny, let's go through these emails that we've had from people, because there's been plenty there for people to share with us about the worst stick that they've had from their mates after a game. So, Rom, you kick off if you can.
Yeah, we got this one guy here, Stevo Jaeger Zombie Bomb. He says, Naeem scoring from the halfway line in 1995. I was at school and I got ripped on big styly.
Well, of
exclamation mark.
That wasn't the only time that Seaman got done. David Seaman, the keeper, of course, because in 2002 in the World Cup, Ronaldinho did him more or less in the same way that Naeem did in the World Cup. So he was always vulnerable, Rom, to that line of attack, as was Stevo Jaeger Zombie Bomb. He was certainly vulnerable to that attack there from his friends. Owen Fletcher, he's a Burnley fan, born and bred in Blackburn. So let me do this in the correct voice. All my mates are Blackburn fans, and Burnley haven't beat Rovers in 32 years. So stick all day, every day, for 23 years. I'd say that's a lot of stick for 23 years, because they haven't beat Rovers in 32 years. So that is a lot of stick. Yes, well, you can't argue with that, Owen. You have to say that. And, of course, it's wonderful that... No, I think, Ron, you have to make an effort to be grammatically correct and, indeed, dialectically correct when you read this correspondence. But I tell you what, 23 years is a lot of stick. That's almost as much as Danny, or should I say Romilly, has taken. Next one, Rom, is Jacob Curl, who's from Ipswich, so you'll have to do that in a Suffolk accent.
No. Everybody I know either supports Ipswich or Arsenal.
That's magnificent, by the way.
Thanks. I'm doing my best. Everybody I know either supports Ipswich or Arsenal. Ipswich lost 7-1 to Peterborough, and the Gunners supporters ripped it out of us. The next week, Arsenal lost 8-2, and Man U supporters laughed. Then Man U lost 6-1.
Do you know what that is, Ron?
What?
Justice.
It's a karma merry-go-round, isn't it?
It is. Scott O'Regan says, the worst stick I've ever had is a baseball bat after Birmingham versus Villa game. I think he's trying to have a bit of fun there. I would say to Scott, if you're listening, the FIFA 12 podcast is not the place for fun. There are other podcasts available if you want to, quite simply, mess about. Not here, Milado. or you'll be getting another baseball bat. And Romilly, could you round us off with a happy ending?
A happy ending. Okay. Well, Usama Farouk will give us a happy ending. My friends were showing me sixes all around the school, and even shaking hands with 6 fingers. I'm guessing he might be a Man United fan.
I think there's every reason to conclude he is a Man United fan. And I think that rounds off the big shout. But then again, you know, a bit of stick is what it's all about. But I tell you what, Rom, this, of course, was in the light of that astonishing 6-1 victory over Man United. I still, Rom, a lot has been said in the aftermath of that game about a handover of power, shift in the balance and everything like that. I still would not write off Man United. I think they were guilty of one thing, and I think they were guilty of underestimating City, to be honest, Ron.
I'm not sure what went wrong, but I think Alex Ferguson got it right in his comments after the match, which was that we've got very used to seeing Man United carve out late victories.
Yeah.
Even when they're a goal down, they will not give up. They will continue to attack for the entire game. They never give up. And that was their downfall. They played incredibly... They went a man down, so they shouldn't have played like that in the first place. They played incredibly open football that just exposed them. And when you expose yourself, as you well know, Stevie, when you expose yourself, you get punished. Especially if you've got the likes of Balotelli and David Silva, who will, they'll just carve you apart. And that's what happened. And I think I actually agree with you, which feels a bit bad. I think the scoreline probably doesn't reflect what's going to happen to Man United this season. I think they were caught napping. And the scoreline actually doesn't really do any justice at all to the way they normally go about playing their game. Normally, that attitude would save them.
But Ron, there's nothing wrong about us being in agreement. I think we're both agreed that this particular podcast is now coming to an end as I gaze out the window and see a new day dawning here in London with all the promise that it heralds, and you there in Vancouver about to climb into bed, if not actually in bed right now. It's very hard to see, Ron. Are you in bed?
I'm not quite, but I've got my gym jams on.
Yeah.
You talk so much that it gives me an opportunity to literally walk around and do chores, knowing I can come back and you still wouldn't have finished.
Well, at least you're getting something out of this podcast then, Ron. But of course, don't forget, folks, we want your comments, and we really need to know where you stand on Romilly Broad's Mug of the Week. Do we go with this as a particular feature? Are you interested in knowing and learning more about Romilly Broad's mug collection? I've seen some of them, folks, and they are quite astonishing. So don't forget, on iTunes, you can leave a comment. You can leave a comment on YouTube, and indeed get in contact with us on our Facebook page and Twitter. Can they not, Romilly Broad?
They can, and indeed I would suggest heartily that people follow our Twitter account because, and that is, by the way, EA Sports FIFA, because we will be bringing updates, live updates on things like forthcoming fixes, forthcoming improvements, forthcoming patches, server upgrades, all that sort of stuff. So if you've got any kind of concerns around that sort of thing in your FIFA gameplay career, then keep an eye on that Twitter account, because it's very easy for us to publish things very quickly on there as and when we have new information. So it's worth watching.
Okay, brilliant stuff, Ron. It's time now for me to head off and for you to retire with a battered and bruised bedtime bear into under the covers, so to speak. So until next time, it is good morning from me and
good night
from him.
We've been launching games and stuff like that, so that makes you quite busy.